We're going to get started. We have a quorum. The July 20th, 2021 Committee on Ways and Means is now called to order. I would like to call on Councilman Shealy to give our invocation in the absence of Councilmember Waring. Councilman Shealy.
I'll be happy to. Thank you. Let us pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessings of this day, Lord. We thank you for all the gifts you've given us. Help us to use those wisely. Lord, help our actions be acceptable to you. For it's in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Before we get started with the minutes, I'd like to acknowledge someone that's getting younger. I think it's his birthday. Council member Sheed, happy birthday. Council member minutes of June 15th and June 30th. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and properly seconded that we approve the June 15th and June 30th, 2021 minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Bids and
I'll
purchases.
move for approval of
Second.
6 items.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on bids and purchases? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item 4. Moved and properly second that we approve the Carter FY22 budget. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I might, Ron Mitchum, Executive Director of BCP-COG and Carter, is here to answer any questions any council members might have. The budget is in your packet. You'll see we have an increased expenditure of about $1.5 million over last year. We have survived the pandemic. We are moving forward. We're in the process of some fairly successful bus replacement. And I think you'll see from our balance sheets that Carter is really actually in probably as good a place as it's been financially in a long time. But Mr. Mitchum, I know, fought water and traffic to get here. Somewhat of a heroic effort. So Mr. Mitchum, if you've got a moment or two, we've got a long agenda, but you earned the moment.
I think your mic's off. Is it?
There you go.
Okay.
How's that?
Good.
A little bit better. But I don't really have anything specific that I need to say unless there's questions you have. You see the capital section is a good bit more this year. That's because we have a number of buses on order that will be delivered in the fiscal year, have to be paid for. All good news. Those are battery electric buses that are coming in. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it. But as the chairman said, we're doing pretty well, all things considered.
Councilmember Griffin.
Yes, sir. How does that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you received a $3 million grant from the federal government, correct, during the pandemic?
We received a few grants, different levels of grants.
How do those play into this budget for next year, in the next couple of years?
Well, some of those have already been expended, and some of them have allowed us to take our formula grant money and expand it out a little bit. And the big issue is it was 100% money, so it didn't require us to provide that local match. So it allows that local match to go further. So bottom line is it really helped us out with the acquisition of the vehicles. So we're in pretty good shape. I try to caution people that it doesn't mean we're in a position where we can expand a whole bunch of service because we're really playing catch up on the capital side. But obviously that's something we're starting to look at. We're starting to look at feature service on the peninsula because there's an awful lot happening down here. And we recognize the dash probably needs to be expanded to provide additional service. So we'll be looking at that and having conversations with mayor and staff.
Any other questions or discussions? Ready for the question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Keep up the great work. Item number 5. Item number 5, Office of Cultural Affairs, approval to accept a grant in the amount of $17,250. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item 6, Executive Department approval to accept a grant in the amount of 25,000.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussions? Yes, Councilman.
Thank you, Chairman. A question about the grant. Is this going to allow us, give us the capacity to apply for additional grants with the national city? That part of the grant package?
Yes.
Sorry, a little short. It is a planning grant, so yes, that would be my understanding is it would help us develop a strategy and then tools to go forward.
Okay. Would you give your name? Your
Sorry.
name.
Oh, Meg Thompson.
For the
Business
record.
Neighborhood Services.
Thank you. Any more questions? All in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. Item 7, Legal Department an ordinance to adopt the most recent version of the International Property Maintenance Code.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. Yes.
And could everyone keep their mics on when they're making motions, just so that our recording will pick that up? Thank you.
Item number 8.
I'll move for approval.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mayor.
so I just wanted to acknowledge we all jointly shared such a challenging budget year for this year and coming to this year's budget. And we really had a shared sacrifice, having a hiring freeze, not having a cost of living increase for our employees, which we need to have in 2022's budget. But we did make the commitment when we passed the budget for 2021 that if we were blessed to have some potential relief from the federal government, which allowed consideration for lost revenue, that we would consider removing the 2 mills that was part of that shared sacrifice budget that we approved for this year. So that's why we bring you this tonight, that we in fact remove that 2 mills. We're able to do that. We were blessed by some federal funding, and I ask everyone, please support this.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
If I may. I will not vote for this. And the reason why I'm not voting for it, because it is a reoccurring expense. While the American Rescue Planning Act funding may help us this time, we will still have to find the dollars in future years to replace it. So with that, I can't support it, particularly as the uncertainty of things are not just in our city, but in this country. So this is one that I cannot support. I think we should leave things as is. Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposes? Nay. Item number 9, resiliency and sustainability. Approval?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item 10, housing and community development approval of an after-the-fact grant submittal in the amount of $192,215. Do I hear a second? Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item 11,
I'll move for approval.
Second.
moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? This is the approval to submit an after-the-fact application that would fund PAARI overdose outreach services. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item
I'll
12.
move for second.
Any discussion? This is also a police department approval of an application amount of $550,000 to fund 2 positions related to mental health crisis intervention and proactive outreach strategy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item number 12, Police Department.
I move for
I'm
approval.
Did I miss one? We just did 12, right? We can approve it again. No. Item 13,
Second.
moved and properly seconded. Any discussion with regard to the Police Department approval of an application in the amount of 500,000
Chairman?
to continue? Yes, Councilwoman.
Sorry, I really, discussion, I totally agree with all of the grants that this one that we're about to vote on and the previous 2. I do think that it would be very responsive of us if we could be making it clear to the community the nature of these grants. I think that, some of the feedback that we've heard from citizens who are, it's green, sorry. Yeah, some of the feedback that we've been hearing for the last year or 2 from citizens who are, dedicated to making sure that our community policing and our community relations with public safety officers is as innovative and forward-thinking as possible. So these 3 grants represent a lot of that, and I really hope that we can make sure that, we are communicating as well as we possibly can out into the region. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Questions? All in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. Item 14.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Stormwater management approval of a fee amendment number 1 with Biohabitats Incorporated and the amount of $30,000. Yes, Councilmember.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, thank you. I want to say thank you to our stormwater staff as well as Biohabitats. This is part of a much bigger plan coming to Church Creek in District 10. This is one of the retrofits that happened out there in Shadow Moss. As everybody remembers, we had a federal grant that bought out a lot of flooding properties, and they're going to be returned to green space. We're also going to be having a public meeting next week on the 29th in Shadow Moss to talk about the former Bridgepoint condos and an environmental park out there, an ecological park, I should say, that's going to be coming out there. So we've got big things coming to District 10 and Shadow Moss, that area. And hopefully we're going to be able to take a negative and turn it into a positive, which is always a good thing to see. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that comment. Any more comments? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Item 15, Parks and Capital Projects approval of construction contract with the Sports Surface.
I'll second.
Okay. Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. Item 16,
Move for approval.
Second.
moved and properly seconded that the Planning, Preservation, and Sustainability approval of the resolution of the Johns Island Municipal Improvement District and the Johns Island Improvement Plan for which the city proposes to provide construction, installation, of future public infrastructure, et cetera. All in favor, say
Well,
aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I
Mayor?
just wanted to make a comment if I may.
Sure.
Moving forward to create a municipal improvement district is not something that we do every day. I wanted to thank our planning department staff for their work on this and just accentuate the need for trying to keep up with the infrastructure or catch up with the infrastructure, I should say, on Johns Island. The city has grown there quite remarkably over the last 10 years. And there are numerous improvements that we need to provide for our citizens over there. And this will give us an avenue to pay for those things. So again, I urge everyone's support on this. I think it's a great way to go for us to provide those future services and improvements for Johns Island.
Any other questions? Right. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposes? The ayes have it. Item
I'll move for
17,
approval.
moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on the approval to enter into an MOU with the Charleston Downtown Alliance to assist in the affiliation? Yes. Councilwoman Del Chapo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do not approve the formation of a bid for the central business district. The main thing the business owners down there want is cleanliness and safety. Those are core city services that we should be providing anyways, not charging our businesses more to get what they should already get for the hard-earned money that they pay in their taxes into the city. So I am against the formation of a bid for those purposes.
Okay, duly noted. Any other discussions? Yes, Mayor Tecklenburg.
Mr. Chairman and my colleagues, I do want to mention that business improvement districts, which are very different from what we just passed for Johns Island, are done in around the country in areas where there's really intense business activity, and the owners of that district want to kind of go the extra mile beyond what city services would normally provide. And to tell you the truth, we already as a city go a little beyond the extra mile. If you just take into account our trash and garbage service every day of the week, cities don't normally do that. We don't do it anywhere else in the city. So if the citizens there, and it'll end up being their choice at the end of the day, they'll have to sign up for this, and it'll be willingly done and on their, with their own commitment, their own governance as well, to help decide what they want to invest in extra in their district. So there are many things they could consider doing, from marketing to having events to promoting the district. So it'll be left up to the creativity of the Downtown Alliance and the folks who end up governing a future business improvement district. And so I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Seeking.
So thank you for that explanation. I'm just not clear why now, at this point, that the city is entering in an MOU. What is the benefit to the future formation of this bid for the city to enter into a front-end MOU? And where's the $25,000 coming from?
Ms. Thompson, or you want to reply to those, please?
So this is going to be a major endeavor to get this accomplished. So we're working with the Downtown Alliance and a consultant to kind of break up the workload. If you look at the MOU, the Alliance is really taking kind of the outreach and getting the public buy-in piece. The city will be doing some of the administrative stuff, such as the ordinance, things like that. And then the consultant is really helping us with the finances, making sure all the numbers add up correctly. So there's enough work to go around between these three groups to get this accomplished.
Can I just follow up? If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman? Thank you. So when you mentioned public buy-in, I mean, really isn't the buy-in from the property owners within the boundaries of the bid district?
Yes.
And is the boundaries going to be from line to broad? Is it that in every entire corridor?
That's currently the working boundaries, yes.
Do we know how many TMS numbers that is?
About 467, I believe.
And just so we're clear, when this comes back to us, which I suspect that it will, if you can just outline what the rules are in terms of formation. My understanding is that you have to have a majority of the valued taxable property to at least form the bid under state law. Am I right about that?
There's a couple different ways you can go about formation, but we'll come back with more clarity.
Okay, I think we probably need on this council to have an understanding, because one way to do it is for the city council just to do it without the property owners agreeing. And I just want to make sure everyone on this council knows the property owners don't agree. It will be indeed additional tax imposed by us without consent, right? Right? Okay, thank you.
Councilman Griffin.
Yes, sir. Some great points made by my colleagues. I'm just wondering what the next steps are. Once we approve this, or if we approve this $25,000, when can we expect to see it again? And what is this $25,000 going to be utilized for to set up this district?
Mr. Chairman, Robert Summerfield, Director of the Planning Department.
So, Councilman, the $25,000 was already allocated in the previous budget process for this consulting. So you're not approving a new $25,000. This is essentially old money, if you would. The work is underway with that consultant to do that. So the next step is we are actively working with the Downtown Alliance right now and the consultant. We actually had our kickoff meeting today, in fact, to work through the process for establishing the bid. As Councilmember Seekings just mentioned, the big component is it's been very clear that the city would not be imposing a bid on these business owners, that they have to, the alliance has to get buy-in from those property owners that meet that assessment criteria and come back to the city with that buy-in in order for the city to move an ordinance forward. That is the intent. So I want to be very clear with that. This is not the intent for the city to just impose this improvement district. This is meant to be done at the behest of the majority of the business owners.
So what you're saying is if the property owners do not want to be a part of the bid and it doesn't get support, that we're just going to table the idea.
Correct. That is the intent. If we do not have the majority support of the assessed value of the properties that would be in that district, then at present, that is the intent, that we would not move forward with a bid request.
Thank you.
Or to the council.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
we'll start with Councilman Waring and then Councilmember.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can we get that assessment of property owners prior to the voting on this? Why do we have to vote first and then get the temperature of the property owners? Let me tell you why I'm asking, because I could see the property owners supporting this, and a lot of those properties are rented. So that increase is going to be pushed down to the tenants, which makes it tougher for small business people to survive. So that's why I'm asking that.
So, Mr. Chairman, through you, so council member, so the intent again is to, with this MOU, is just to establish a relationship between the city, the consultant, and the Downtown Alliance in terms of the workflow on this. It's not to approve a bid. It's not to approve the structure of how that bid will be implemented should a bid be approved. This is just a procedural item to memorialize the relationship for doing the due diligence work, if you would. Part of the conversation that the Downtown Alliance needs to have is not just with the property owners, although that's obviously important. They're the ones ultimately who pay the tax. But to your point, part of their process has got to be to speak with the business owners that are often tenants of those properties, who also get their opinion and their thoughts on what would be the services that they need to improve their business. Again, the idea here is that the activities of the business improvement district would increase the number of people that are shopping in the district, that are coming to the district for events, improve above and beyond those things that the city already does with regard to clean and safe, and a number of those other strategies that are, again, a part of the national model for business improvement district.
Mr. Chairman, let me follow up, please. I understand all the goodness that can come from it if you have a consensus. Why is this before us before that consensus has been arrived at? That's the nucleus of my question.
So, Mr. Chairman, through you. So, council member, this is why this is before you, because before we go out to the community, to be very honest, the $25,000 was insufficient to hire a consultant to do all this work. And so we have come into agreement with the Downtown Alliance for them to do the outreach component of this work. It's a multifaceted piece of work to try to bring a bid forward. And so we are entering into this agreement, this MOU that's before you today, to detail the work that the Downtown Alliance is going to do with regard to this. So you've got to put everything together and do the outreach before we can have that consensus to say, you know what, we do have the numbers, we do have the buy-in and the support. And again, that will all be brought back to this committee and to the council at a future date, should we reach that milestone of having that support demonstrated by the Downtown Alliance from those business owners or property owners.
As a former chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, that consensus among business owners can be arrived at without coming to government. They can actually get that consensus among themselves and then bring that forward to us to be a partner in, if you will. But I respect your answer. Thank you.
Councilman Saccharin?
Thank you, Chair. I do agree with Councilman Machado comments. As a small business owner who has a business downtown, some of the basic things that I hear over and over, just sidewalks being clean, parking available. I'm fully supportive of any others. Bolster and support small businesses, but Councilman Waring's point. They have technologies to be able to send in Google Sheet out to these owners to get an assessment of what they're looking for, and you come back to us. So I would make a motion to Mr. Furthest. We need some more information. And the last reason I'd like to make is a little confusing. It's a small business owner in the Downtown Alliance, Central Business District, we're here tonight. Where's the CBD? They're the ones organizing and helping us, not leveraging small business. Those are my questions. I would ask us for this information. Well, give back.
Chair, I second that motion.
There's a motion to defer, a first and a second. We'll vote on the deferral first. All those in favor of a deferral of item number 17, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay. Nay.
Can we do a roll call, please?
Thank you. Councilwoman Del Chapo. Councilmember Shealy.
Let's make sure that we're voting on the deferral, not on, okay, nay.
Councilmember Shealy. Councilmember Saccharin. Councilmember Mitchell. I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Aye.
Councilmember Brady.
Aye.
Councilmember Gregory. Councilmember Waring.
Nay.
Councilmember Seekings.
Nay.
Councilmember Shade.
Nay.
Councilmember Griffin.
Aye.
Councilmember Appel.
Nay.
Councilmember Jackson.
Nay.
Mayor Tecklenburg.
Let me correct my vote. I voted aye. I'm for the
We have
deferral.
The motion fails.
So now we're back.
The substance of it.
Right, okay. All those in favor of item number 17, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I think the ayes have it, but maybe we should do a roll call.
Councilwoman Del Chapo.
Nay.
Councilmember Shealy.
Nay.
Councilmember Saccharin. Councilmember Mitchell. Councilmember Brady. Councilmember Gregory. Councilmember Waring.
Nay.
Councilmember Seekings.
Aye.
Councilmember Shade.
Aye.
Councilmember Griffin.
Aye.
Councilmember Appel.
Aye.
Councilmember Jackson.
Aye.
Mayor Tecklenburg. And
I think the ayes have it, okay?
For the 7-6?
Okay, it passes. Item number 18, resolution to commit additional $2,046,890.18 from,
I'll second.
okay? And this is to support the Ashley River Crossing project. Any discussion? Yes, Councilmember Griffin?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'm in support of this. I'm just wondering where the money's coming from.
We'll ask our CFO. Question is, where's the money coming from?
We don't really know yet. We have a couple of years we could use general fund reserves possibly.
can you speak into the mic a little bit?
And the other option could be also ARPA funds as well. So we just need to make that decision.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mayor.
So I did want to explain, and we covered this at the Traffic and Transportation Committee yesterday, that this is a requirement of the United States Federal Highway Administration for us to proceed with the project. And it is based on an estimate that was done by our consultant. And at this point, they do estimate that the construction costs would run approximately $2 million more than what the overall budget was originally presented in the grant, which was written up a few years ago now. But it does not preclude us. So when we get to an actual 100% design, we'll end up getting a firm price and a bid and have a firm number at that time. The whole grant did require that the city make up any difference between what was proposed. The federal government agreed to give us 18 and something million dollars for this, and what it ends up costing. It does not preclude us from going back to our partners, including the county, who put up $3 million as part of the match, or to the medical university, who generously put up some money. It doesn't preclude us from seeking other partners as well. So this is a placeholder, admittedly, to allow the project to go forward and us to get firm pricing down the road. And yes, we'll have to we have to make a commitment that we're going to cover it, but it doesn't preclude us from seeking funds elsewhere.
Okay. And without the commitment, what will happen?
Then the project would stop.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Council, did everyone hear the mayor's answer?
Yes.
Okay. Councilman Griffin?
And that's exactly why I'm going to support this today, because normally I would be very hesitant about us allocating over $2 million and not knowing exactly where the funding source is going to be. But just the sheer fact that this is people's lives at stake, all of our residents, we can't have one more person die going over that bridge the way that it is. It's just a travesty. And there's no reason why. I mean, if we have to find the money somehow, some way, we've got to do it, because this is just too big a project. But normally this is not something that I would do, because I don't agree with us earmarking stuff. But this project's just too crucial. It's got to be done.
Any further discussion? 2 million for 18 million sounds pretty good to me. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just really quickly before we get off this
Sure.
topic, and maybe the mayor wants to jump in. We did have a report at Traffic and Transportation yesterday, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more in the committee reports today, but there's a lot going on this project and getting this grant in place. And I think that I just would applaud my fellow council members for moving this forward and giving our staff the tools that they need to really bring together what's a very complicated project, which involves just about every government you can think of in this region and not in this region. So it's an important project. You all saw what happened this past weekend out there. I mean, it's time that we get this project done. And if it costs us a couple more dollars and we can then backfill it with monies from other governments or from the TIF district in which this bridge sits, I think it's just a win-win for all of us. So I meant to say that before we closed out the vote, but I think that we're heading in the right direction here, and let's keep it moving.
I mean, it is in my district.
For now.
I just want to reiterate a couple of points that my colleagues have mentioned here. I live in by North Bridge, and I'm looking at Katie Zimmerman to my right over down, who's been working with the county on the redesign of a pedestrian bicycle path over that part of the Ashley. So we have 2 points on the Ashley River, which are dangerous pathways for folks who need to get across the Ashley River Bridge. One is on this portion of the bridge that we're talking about right now, over by the Legree Bridge, and then this North Bridge area, which is going to be a much more complicated pathway to get across on the other side of North Charleston from Carsgrove, from San Brittenberg to Carsgrove over into the north area. This is an important concept, and this is an important step in our process, because our mindset has been changed over the last several years as we are debating this issue about fairness and equal access for all folks, not just motorists, but for those who need to get across these bridges by another means besides a vehicle. And so I appreciate the council's support on this because it just shows us what direction we're heading into. And we need to keep this momentum going up because we have other projects down the road that are going to need our attention on this. Very, very important. And as the mayor just mentioned, we had a fatality over the weekend over this bridge. And there is not a day that doesn't go by that I notice somebody trying to cross over that north bridge by walking or carrying their bicycle. So I appreciate council support, and I just wanted to bring this to our attention to keep the conversation going on this very important subject. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion? If we sure can use some new bridges. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Councilmember Shea, Chairman of Committee on Real Estate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Committee on Real Estate met yesterday afternoon at 3:00 in the afternoon. We had several items on our agenda. The first item under A is an ordinance to authorize the mayor to execute an easement granting Dominion the right to construct and extend and operate an overhead or underground electric lines, et cetera, et cetera. That motion passed unanimously. Item B regarding a replacement for our public services facility location on Swanee Road has been deferred. Item C was a request to authorize the mayor to accept a proposal for consulting and additional environmental quality assessment services for the Low Country Low Line from S&ME Inc. in the amount of $22,225. That request was also approved by the committee unanimously. Item D was a resolution to amend the non-exclusive water taxi service agreement with Charleston Water Taxi. That was also approved unanimously. We had a very spirited discussion on item number E, which was an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute on behalf of the city the Laurel Island Development Agreement, including the Public Infrastructure Improvements Agreement. That also was approved unanimously by the committee. We had a request for approval of the amendment to Memorandum of Understanding and Agreement between the city and the Epic Center. This is the development we're at Citadel Mall. They needed an extension of that agreement for, I think, another year before the timeline expired on that. That also was approved unanimously as well. Excuse me. There was a request for approval of the bargain, I love this, the bargain sale agreement between the city of Charleston and Clements Ferry Properties for the purchase of 1.35 acres known as the Town at Cooper River. The purchase price for this is $150,000. There were some improvements that we would be responsible for on a road being built. This is property that we're going to use with Chief Courier, I saw him earlier, for the replacement of a fire station over on off of Clements Ferry Road. That was also approved unanimously as well. Item H was a request for approval of the purchase and sale agreement between the city of Charleston and Howell Avenue for the purchase of property on Howell Avenue. Actually, items H and I will run together. This is for property to have new parks and recreation on James Island. The purchase for that was $450,000. And I think it was below the actual appraisal amount, but the owner who's selling the property had the right to have a naming of this particular park. All those items I submit for your approval. We had three considerations for annexation: 109 Magnolia Road in District 3, 2710 Pine Long Lane on Johns Island, District 5, and Maybank Highway 3255, also in District 5. Mr. Chairman, I submit to you that the approval of all items A through J, with the exception of B, be considered by this committee for approval.
Second.
It's moved and properly second. It's time for discussion. Just a quick question for you, Mr. Chairman, on Howell Avenue. As you know, we have an unbelievable flooding issue on Howell Avenue. Is anything being done in conjunction with what we're getting ready to do with the $425,000 to mitigate the unbelievable flooding? And I know that it is a multi-jurisdictional problem, but it's something that's been plaguing the folks on Howell Avenue for years. Yes, yes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. So this project itself, of course, is a collaborative project between the county and city to basically build a stormwater park in addition to the bike ped, or what would be, sorry, it wouldn't be bike in this situation, it's pedestrian access associated with the greenbelt portion of the project. So there will be some flood relief from that component of the work with the greenbelt award. On the larger overall scale in the area, the county is currently in initial engineering using a city CTC fund award on the downstream portion where it crosses Central Park to try to relieve the impact at that intersection. And then as work continues in that basin, we'll keep moving upstream closer and closer to Howell, but that should provide some flood relief on the downstream side as well.
Have we been able to get a right of ways and encroachments because we needed to get some right of way?
Yeah, so as you continue to move upstream, there's more and more need for easement. The county primarily has been taking the lead on that, as many of the residents are within the county. They've had a number of public meetings. They've had very little success to date in obtaining easement. I think the idea right now is for us to try to build up some momentum basically as we get those downstream improvements to show there's somewhere for the water to go. And I think we'll have more support from some of the residents in dedicating the easement. Even without that dedication, you will see improvement. Even without it, it just won't be the magnitude of improvement you could get with easement.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of buying trust from the community to basically show that we're really serious about doing work in the area.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer. Yes, Council Member Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I voted the way that our chairman Shade reported on the real estate committee yesterday. I just wanted to put a little pin as a placeholder under item E. This will be the first reading of the Laurel Island Development Agreement. We were advised yesterday that tomorrow evening, the Planning Commission will see the development agreement for the first time, and that in terms of our city's normal process for these things, it could have been that Planning Commission would have heard the issue and then made a recommendation to the council, and then we would have had our first reading. But because we're in summer schedule, I think the staff recommended that we go ahead and put it on our agenda for tonight so that we can continue to go through the approval process for second and third reading. I just want to be on the record that I think we talked about being the opportunity to be responsive to any changes in our stormwater regulations as the years go on. And I want the same thing for the planning process. I do think that we need to think seriously about how we can make sure that this development agreement is going to be responsive to our city plan that should be dated 2020. And because of COVID and all the delays that we have acknowledged, it'll actually be adopted after the development agreement. But I do think that we need to be making an arrangement that we can put the development agreement under the master plan that we're about to adopt for the next 10 years. So thank you.
Any other discussions or comments on this issue? If not, all in favor of the submission of the real estate report as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Is there anything else to be brought before this committee? If not, this meeting's